Hey, Pet Pros, welcome back. Tail Wag briefing number 2 is rolling out of the truck today. Last week, we talked about safety culture and the simple idea that professional pet care is real work that deserves systems, not just good intentions. This week, we zoom the camera out, a little look at something many people in our field would never actually have shown. Why OSHA applies to pet sitting, and even inside someone else's living room. And the production assistant is working overtime this morning. A lot of people assume OSHA is only for hard hat environments and factories, warehouses, or construction sites where, sparks fly and forklifts beep. Private homes are different. They feel informal, personal, lower stakes. But from a legal standpoint, once an employee is performing work for an employer, that location becomes a workplace, even if it's just one part-time employee. It doesn't matter if the floor is concrete, carpet. It doesn't matter if the roof belongs to a corporation or the homeowner. Under the law, if your employer sends you there to perform work, it's a workplace. And that's where a single sentence in federal law quietly changes the whole conversation. The General Duty Clause in the Occupational Safety and Health Act says employers must provide a workplace free from recognized hazards that are likely to cause death or serious physical harm. The phrase that matters here is recognized hazards. A recognized hazard is something that your employer knows about or reasonably should know about, and that could hurt someone doing the job. In pet care, those hazards are not theoretical. They're everyday conditions many of us already navigate. From animal bites and behavior incidents to the slip, trips, and falls, medications and sharps, unsecured animals and loose gates. And then, of course, there's the lone worker conditions. You are often the only person on site. There's no coworker, no supervisor in the building. If something goes wrong, the response delay is longer. And that reality amplifies every other risk. When OSHA talks about recognized hazards, this is exactly the type of environment they mean. So what does that mean for your employer? It means they cannot simply wait until someone gets hurt. They are expected to identify the predictable hazards ahead of time, train workers to recognize them, provide appropriate protective equipment, and maintain incident reporting systems so patterns can be corrected. That's the entire purpose of the training system. Not paperwork, not bureaucracy, but giving professional pet sitters the same hazard awareness tools that are used in other industries and have used for decades. Because the simple truth, private homes may feel informal, but under the law, they are workplaces. And the hazards inside them are very, very real. In today's discussion, we're going to talk about some of those hazards that maybe you've personally encountered. What surprised you inside a client's home? And whether you would know exactly what to do if an injury happened during a visit. So let's dig into it. This is a workplace and why OSHA applies, even in someone's living room. Many pet sitters assume OSHA is for factories, warehouses, and construction sites. Private homes feel different. They're informal, they're personal, and often perceived lower stakes. That assumption is wrong. And understanding why that matters for your safety and your employer's legal obligations is critical. The law, in plain language, under the Occupational Safety Health Act, Section 5A1, is the General Duty Clause. Employers must provide a workplace free from recognized hazards that are causing or likely to cause death or serious physical harm. The phrase there that matters is recognized hazards. These are conditions that your employer knows about or reasonably should know about that could hurt you. This is one of the reasons that many pet sitting businesses and dog walking companies conduct what we know and call a meet and greet. It's not just for the pet owner to get to know the company. It's also for the company to get a lay of the property and identify hazards before they send a team member in. So, what are some of those hazards we work around every day? Whether it's a dog or cat, we're talking about animal bites and behavior incidents. Dog bites alone send more than 800,000 people to the doctor annually in the United States. These are not freak accidents. They are recognized, documented, foreseeable hazards. I'm sure somewhere in your onboarding program, the person you were shadowing with probably said something like, "Be careful. A dog bite can happen in a split second." We look at the slip, trip, and fall, wet entryways, loose rugs, cluttered stairs, icy walkways. Private homes are not designed for repeated worker entry under time pressure. And those are things that can be easily overlooked if we're not careful. Medications and sharps, clients' prescriptions medications, insulin syringes, and other sharps that may be left accessible. Exposure or an accidental needle stick is a recognized hazard. Unsecured animals and loose gates. A gate that doesn't latch fully isn't just a minor inconvenience. It's a foreseeable cause of injury to you, the animal, or a neighbor. And of course, there is the lone worker conditions, that you are often the only person on site with no backup if something goes wrong. That isolation amplifies every other hazard. And this is more than likely why your pet sitting company uses some sort of a GPS tracking device on you. And that if after a certain amount of time, they're going to be calling you or sending somebody to do a welfare check on you. So let's talk about some of the questions for a team discussion. Which of those hazards have you personally encountered, and what happened? Has a client ever had something in their home that surprised you? Something you weren't expecting to deal with? If you were injured on the job today, do you know what steps to take and who to call? What this means for your employer. The law requires your employer to identify predictable hazards. Before incidents occur, not just respond when someone gets hurt, but also anticipate what could go wrong. They need to train workers in hazard recognition and in the safe procedures, which is exactly what the training system is for. Because when we walk into a client's home, maybe conditions inside the home have changed and often do change from day to day. Can we recognize those hazards, and is there a way to report them? Provide appropriate personal protective equipment, gloves, documentation tools, first aid access, matched to the hazards that you're going to encounter, and to maintain incident logs and have a reporting system so that patterns are visible and we can correct them sooner rather than later. The key takeaway from this is that private homes are real workplaces under the law. The hazards are real, recognized, and foreseeable. And if your employer has legal obligation to help you navigate them safely, before your next shift, identify one hazard you've encountered in the last month that you didn't report or document. I want you to think about why and whether you might handle it a little bit differently now. You can find more information on this tail wag briefing at fieldnotesforpetprofessionals.com or on Substack at bethpasick1.substack.com. Until next week, have a wonderful day and have a safe tail wagging week.